trial. People are entitled to have good lawyers. And if they have good lawyers and have a fair trial, and if they get convicted and they get the death penalty or they get life, well, hey, you know what? They had their day in court and they had some good lawyers representing them, and I could live with that. That's what's important to me. But don't engage in trickery or try to introduce evidence that's just designed to sway jurors' emotions. They didn't have to do that. And it wouldn't surprise me that if that was one of the grounds for the appeal in this case. And why create grounds for an appeal? Why do that when you have an absolute rock-solid case? It makes no sense.
Do you think prosecutors overcharge for the most part? I mean, there are good ones, obviously, but in high-profile case, a la Casey Anthony, do you think they overcharged in that case?
Well, they charged her with murder in that case. I mean, if they believe that she was engaged in killing her child, then you should be charged with murder of the child, right? I think what prosecutors do is they try to find every conceivable crime that you could be charged with so that the jury's faced with, 50-count indictment. And then the prosecutors, I know they think like this. They say, well, if for some reason the jury, wants to compromise, they'll throw out 25 charges, but they could find him guilty of the 25 other charges. And the person will go to jail for life or even possibly face death. So prosecutors do play that numbers game because they want to ensure that there'll be some type of a conviction for something. That's what they do. One of the mistakes that occurs by prosecutors is they'll charge you, like I had a case like this once. A guy was charged with a serious offense, and then he was charged with a secondary offense. The secondary offense had no business being in that indictment. So I was arguing to the jury that he should be found guilty. I admit he's guilty of the secondary offense. Why did I do that? I wanted the jury to find him not guilty of the top charge, find him guilty of the secondary offense, and then after the trial was over, move to dismiss the secondary offense on the grounds that it should never have been there in the first place. So, lawyers have a way of trying to play the system. And if there's an opportunity, they will do it.
There's nothing easy about that. I did wanted to ask you about Jodi's mother's comment. Let you hear some sound after she was sentenced.
Hard for a mom as a mom. How tough is this?
Oh, very tough. Like I said in my statement, you dream of your daughter becoming a mom, walking down that aisle as a bride. Jodi's never going to see that. That's very hard for me because I come from a big family. My husband comes from a big family, and Jodi's not going to have the chance to ever experience that. So that's something that's probably the hardest for me, but I know she's going to be okay.
What do you want people to know about Jodi?
What do I want them to know about Jodi?
About Jodi. There's a lot out there.
Well, like I said, Jodi always lit up a room when she walked in. Her smile was so bright, and she was always Jodi always tried to help people less fortunate than her, even through school. She always found the kid that was being picked on or whatever, and stood up for them and helped them, and she's done that all through her life. She's always helped people less fortunate. She'll continue to do that. She did that the last 7 years while she was in the Estrella jail, and she's going to continue to do that.
What about the fact that you and her both still feel like she was a victim?
I do feel like she was a victim, definitely. I saw the bruises. I saw bruises on her neck. I saw bruises on her arms. They would not let me testify. They didn't want me to testify. But I did see that. I saw that my stepdaughter saw bruises on her. Other people have seen them, but were not able to testify.
Wow, Alex Sanchez, all she's talking about is Jodi. She didn't mention the victim one time. What's your thoughts on mother, Jodi Arias?
I'll tell you, when I was listening to her, and I noticed an appalling or uncomfortable lack of emotion. It was almost very clinical, the way she was talking about it, as if she was some type of a professor in a class, and she was talking about some, profile of some, case study they were doing on some unknown individual. Instead of taking the opportunity to express, her heartfelt sympathy for the fellow that was viciously murdered, and also to say, listen, you know, what I think needs to be understood is that my daughter's a sick child. You know, what normal person would do this? Why would anybody do this? There was some force there. I don't know if it's a chemical imbalance. I don't know if something happened to her that I'm not aware of. But people just don't act like this in a vacuum. Something happened to her. I wish I knew what it was. And I'm going to cry to the day that I die, trying to understand what happened. And may God bless the soul of this individual that ended up dying as a result of my daughter's unfortunate actions. That's what she should have said, but she didn't.
Yeah, she really she said she's. What about the fact that she said she saw bruises? I mean, that could have been from anywhere, but
she saw bruises, but